My name is Olivia, and this story began on the first night after my wedding. I was 28 years old. I had just married Daniel. He was kind, calm, and patient. We had been together for 3 years. I loved him deeply. I trusted him completely. Our wedding day was beautiful. My family smiled all day. His family looked happy too. Everyone said we were perfect together. That night, we arrived at a small hotel near the beach. It was quiet there. I could hear the sound of the waves outside our window. The room was warm and soft. There were flowers on the bed. There were candles on the table. Everything looked romantic. I remember sitting near the window and smiling. I felt nervous, but I also felt happy. It was the first night of our marriage. I thought it would be perfect. But something felt strange. Daniel was quiet. Very quiet. At first, I thought he was tired. The wedding had been long. We had talked to many people. We had smiled for hours. I told myself not to worry. Still, something felt wrong. Daniel stood near the bathroom door for a long time. He looked down at the floor. He looked nervous. His hands were shaking a little. I walked toward him slowly. "Are you okay?" I asked. He smiled, but the smile looked weak. "Yes," he said softly. "I'm okay." But I could feel it. He was hiding something. That night should have been full of love and excitement. But instead, the room felt heavy. The silence felt heavy. My heart felt heavy too. I sat on the bed and watched him carefully. He took his phone from his pocket many times. He looked at the screen quickly. Then he locked it again. My stomach started to hurt. What was happening? Why was he acting like this? I didn't understand. A few minutes later, his phone vibrated again. Daniel quickly turned away from me. That moment hurt me deeply. We had just become husband and wife. Why was he hiding his phone from me? Something felt wrong. I tried to stay calm. I told myself not to imagine bad things. But my mind became full of fear. What if he was talking to another woman? What if he regretted marrying me? What if I made a mistake? The questions would not stop. Finally, Daniel walked outside to the balcony. He closed the glass door behind him. I could still see him. He looked serious. He typed something fast on his phone. Then he covered his face with one hand. I felt cold inside. I slowly stood up and walked closer to the door. I could not hear his words, but I could hear his voice shaking. Then I heard one sentence clearly. "I will tell her soon." My heart stopped. Tell her what? Who was he talking to? Why did he sound afraid? I stepped back quickly before he returned inside. I sat on the bed again and pretended nothing happened. But inside, My mind was screaming. The rest of the night felt strange. Daniel tried to smile. He tried to speak normally. But I could see fear in his eyes. I could feel distance between us. When he finally slept, I stayed awake. I stared at the ceiling for hours. Something felt wrong. I kept repeating those words in my mind. I will tell her soon. I wanted answers. I wanted the truth. The next morning, Daniel woke up early. He looked tired. Dark circles were under his eyes. "Do you want breakfast?" he asked. His voice sounded careful. I nodded slowly. We ate quietly near the beach restaurant. Other couples looked happy around us. Some people laughed. Some held hands. But we sat in silence. Daniel looked at me many times, like he wanted to say something. But each time, he stopped himself. I started feeling angry. If there was a problem, why wouldn't he tell me? Marriage should be honest. Marriage should be built on trust. That afternoon, Daniel said he needed to visit someone nearby for 1 hour. My chest became tight again. "Who are you meeting?" I asked. He hesitated. "Just someone important," he said. That answer made everything worse. Something felt wrong. I watched him leave the hotel room. The moment the door closed, I started crying quietly. I hated myself for crying. I hated feeling weak, but fear was growing inside me. What if my marriage was already broken? What if love was not enough? I sat alone for a long time. Then I noticed Daniel's bag near the chair. Part of me wanted to respect his privacy, but another part of me was desperate. I slowly opened the bag. Inside, I found normal things first. Clothes, a charger, his wallet. Then I found a small white envelope. My hands started shaking. I opened it carefully. Inside was a photo. A woman was standing beside Daniel. She looked happy. Daniel was smiling too. My eyes filled with tears immediately. Who was she? Why did he keep her photo hidden? Behind the picture, there were words written in blue ink. "Thank you for giving me another chance to live." I could barely breathe. My mind became wild with fear. Another chance to live? What did that mean? Was she sick? Was she his old lover? I didn't understand anything. I heard the hotel door open suddenly. I quickly turned around. Daniel stood there. His face changed immediately when he saw the photo in my hands. The room became silent. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Then Daniel slowly sat down. He looked exhausted. "I wanted to tell you," he whispered. Tears fell from my eyes. "Who is she?" I asked. My voice sounded broken. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. Then he finally spoke. She is my sister. I stared at him in shock. Sister. He nodded slowly. Her name is Emma. I felt confused. Daniel took a deep breath. 2 years ago, Emma became very sick. Very sick. The doctors said she needed surgery quickly. But it was expensive. I tried everything to help her. His voice shook badly. I worked extra hours. I borrowed money. I sold my car. I listened silently. Then he looked directly at me. But it was not enough. Tears rolled down his face. I almost lost her. The room felt still. I could hear my own heartbeat. Daniel continued speaking slowly. One day, Emma told me she was tired. She said maybe it was better to stop fighting. But I begged her not to give up. He covered his eyes with his hand. She survived the surgery. She survived everything. He pointed softly at the photo. That picture was taken after she left the hospital. I looked down at the photo again. Suddenly, the words made sense. Thank you for giving me another chance to live. My chest felt heavy with guilt, but there was still one question. Why hide this from me? I asked quietly. Daniel looked ashamed. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? He swallowed hard. Afraid you would leave? I frowned in confusion. Then he told me the truth. During Emma's illness, Daniel borrowed a large amount of money. Very large. Even after years of working, he still had debt. He had hidden it from me. Not because he wanted to trick me, but because he felt embarrassed. I wanted to solve it before our wedding, he said. I didn't want to bring pain into our marriage. His voice broke completely. But I failed. I sat there silently. Part of me felt angry. He should have trusted me. He should have told me earlier. But another part of me saw the pain in his eyes. I saw how heavy this secret had become for him. He was not hiding another woman. He was hiding fear. Fear of losing me. Fear of looking weak. Fear of not being enough. Daniel looked at me carefully. If you hate me, I understand, he whispered. That sentence broke my heart. I realized something important in that moment. Love is not only about happy days. Marriage is not only about beautiful weddings. Sometimes love means seeing someone's fear clearly. Sometimes love means staying when life becomes difficult. I moved closer to him, slowly. Then I held his hand. Daniel started crying quietly. I'm sorry, he kept repeating. I'm so sorry. I cried too, not because I hated him, but because I finally understood how alone he had felt. For many months, He carried fear by himself. He carried stress by himself. He smiled while suffering inside. That night, we talked for hours. Real conversations. Honest conversations. Painful conversations. But also healing conversations. For the first time since our wedding, the silence disappeared. The fear disappeared too. Not completely, but enough for us to breathe again. Daniel showed me all the papers about the debt. He answered every question honestly.
He stopped hiding, and I stopped imagining terrible things. Sometimes our minds create bigger fears than the truth. Sometimes silence creates pain. That first night of marriage was not perfect. It was messy. It was emotional. It was full of tears and fear. But strangely, it became the night we truly understood each other. Years later, I still remember that night clearly. I remember the fear. I remember the silence. I remember thinking everything was falling apart. But I also remember the truth. Love grows stronger when honesty finally enters the room. Sometimes the truth is not what we expect. Sometimes people hide pain, not betrayal. And sometimes marriage truly begins after the masks disappear. Today, Daniel and I still face problems together. Life is not always easy, but now we speak openly. We do not hide fear anymore. Because we learned something important that night. We are stronger when we face life together. Thank you for listening to my story. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and continue learning English with us. Keep learning, keep growing, and never be afraid of the truth.